This episode of The Casual is brought to you in part by Squarespace. For all your website needs, Squarespace delivers it in an all-around package to help you build a beautiful, integrated online presence. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Reggie Casual. And for a while now, we've given you the skinny on brands, info, and all that from the land of the rising sun. But how can you, independently, without the casual's help, learn more about Japanese fashion? Well, it ain't hard, but if you want some pointers, we got you covered real quick. I got 8 tips. 8 things that you can do to learn more about Japanese fashion. List format, you know what it is. I'm your boy, Reggie Casual. Let's get it. All right, so number 1, study the primary designers and tastemakers. Seems obvious, but who are they is the point. One of the great things about Japanese fashion, preface, is that it's incredibly integrated. It's incredibly connected. Learning about one designer and or tastemaker can and often will introduce you to others because they are all a part of the same group. They all know each other. Now, the designers I tend to suggest to start off with, start your studies into Japanese fashion, are quite obvious for some people, and others it's not so obvious. But it kind of goes like this. If you're on the designer side, you should be looking at Chisato Tsumori, Kenzi Takada, Kenzi Yamamoto, Issey Miyake, Yohji Yamamoto, and of course, Rei Kawakubo. On the street side, I'd probably just stick with Hiroshi Fujiwara because everything stems from him. And maybe just by virtue of him growing immensely out of Fujiwara's shadow, NIGO. Yeah. I recognize a lot of cats didn't make that list and I skipped a lot of people, but the individuals that were mentioned are pretty much connected to almost every single notable designer and or tastemaker in Japan. Seriously, if you study up on the people that were mentioned, you'll pretty much get the breadth of fashion in Japan if you go deeper than just them. Number 2, read Amitora. This is another one of those obvious ones. Everybody who wants to have more insight into the world and culture of Japanese fashion has read Amitora. It's like a prerequisite, right? But to be honest, Amitora talks mostly about how Japan integrated American sensibilities and style into Japanese methodology. That's really what it explores. You're not gonna learn about a ton of brands, some, but the overall philosophy of Japanese fashion when it comes to the contemporary is explored more in the book. It's still good, but I fear far too many people use it as the whole reference into Japanese fashion. Like once they read it, they think they know everything. It's not the case, but it's still a great read and you should definitely pick it up. 3, we got some websites. Websites are good. Fashionsnap.com, master.jp, honey, I think .com, fashionpress.com, icecream.jp, and Hypebeast Japan. Those are all great websites. Those are pretty much my go-to for Japanese fashion news, events, lifestyle, and that's a part of the fashion culture in Japan. And these are like the single biggest resources for like new releases, labels, designers, artists, events, pretty much the whole gamut. Fashion Snap, for example, is great for styles and rank stories. Mastered is street-centric, but incredibly well curated. You're gonna find some new brands there. Fashion Press is actually one of my faves because you can learn about pretty much any brand or designer provided you know how to speak, read Japanese, or you know how to use a translator like Google Translate. I think everybody knows how to do that. Seriously, if I ever wanted to know about like say Wako Maria, I simply put in Google search like Wako Maria ni tsuite, which basically translates to about Wako Maria. And the first website is usually Fashion Press with the synopsis on the brand. It's invaluable as a resource is the point, and you should definitely use it. You learn a little bit of Japanese. Wako Maria ni tsuite. And then you just put all kinds of crazy stuff. Fragmento ni tsuite. Oh man, that's ridiculous. All right, so number 4, Rizzoli or Taschen books on Japanese designers. I mean, to be honest, Rizzoli or Taschen books on anybody is just a great resource for fashion in general, right? Everybody knows. I love them, and you should too. If you're a fan of fashion, you owe it to yourself to start collecting them now. That is going to give you so much insight into the world of fashion. Basically, they give you the design and methodology of a designer by exploring their breadth of work and offering succinct but very informative explanations on certain pieces or certain works. And if you want something like more street-centric, you could start with Hiroshi Fujiwara. If you want something like design, you could start with Rei Kawakubo's Taschen. It's like a must-buy. Almost everybody has that. And of course, there's a lot more. There's one on Supreme, there's one on Pharrell. These aren't Japanese, but I'm saying there's one on Undercover. Let's use the name of a Japanese one, a Rizzoli book on Undercover, which is amazing. There's a lot of them. You should just pick up those books, right? Those are fantastic resources, and pretty much they're basically encyclopedias on a designer. All right, we got 4 more, but before we get into that, let's get into a word from our sponsor, Squarespace. A big part of this fashion industry is presentation. That's why Squarespace offers up professional, clean, and easily customized website themes that will have you presentation ready from jump. So no matter if you're running an up-and-coming label or just want to sell some novelty merchandise, Squarespace's e-commerce options, social media integrations, and robust analytics and data-driven backend make selling, promoting, and managing your website incredibly easy. All that, and you can save 10% when using our code squarespace.com/thecasual when you sign up. So why are you hesitating? Get started and make that website using Squarespace today. All right, so coming in at number 5, we have Grailed Dry Clean Only. That is a fantastic resource for learning more about fashion in general, and their articles on designers from Japan are aplenty, albeit a bit on the well-known designer side than I'd like, but they are thorough, well-written, and a great resource for getting a bit of history on the major designers from Japan and around the world. So yeah, Grailed Dry Clean Only, like a masterclass. Those are great, and you should read them when they drop. Number 6, follow Lum Osaka, Nepenthez Studios, and Fascinate on Instagram. Now, I distinctly chose those because they are Japanese select shops that have very distinct looks that are very Japanese in approach. And these shops often have brands and labels that you'll never hear about on the big media sites, but they are still amazing. It's a great resource for learning about those brands, but also for understanding how to put more ambitious looks together. In fact, Lum Osaka is one of my favorite select shops, period, in Japan, period. But it's tough because I live in Tokyo and Osaka is a bit far, so I have to settle for online. However, it doesn't matter, still one of my favorite stores, and I will constantly get stuff from them or check out what they got going on. Number 7, Zozo Town. You may think that this is weird, but Zozo Town, if you don't know, Zozo Town is Japan's biggest online fashion retailer. It's one of the ultimate resources, for me at least, for fashion research, especially when it comes to searching or finding pieces. And it all has to do with how search is implemented on the site. So, for example, instead of searching by simple categories like tops, bottoms, outer, etc., Zozo Town expands on that and allows you to go deeper into that criteria. You could search t-shirts, for example, but I can also search by long, short, or no sleeve or quarter sleeve. I can also search by color and material. I can search by length, standard, and shoulder width. I can even add an option where it aggregates all the tees that have no graphic designs on them. That's nuts, because that's just t-shirts. Never mind all the other options that come with other pieces of clothes. In fact, Zozo Town is so specific, outers have several categories. You can specifically search fishtail parkers or peacoats or chesters, mountain parkers, denim jackets, riders jackets, and more in their own categories. And even then you could still use the desired measurement options to find the perfect fit you're looking for. Zozo is a fantastic resource if you're looking for something particular to buy, but it's even better when you use it as a research tool because you know pieces and then you'll be introduced to new brands all the time. And finally, number 8, watch The Casual. So yeah, it may seem self-serving, but The Casual is one of the few channels on YouTube that drops knowledge on Japanese fashion, happenings in Japan, among other things. Yeah, so watch The Casual. However, in an effort not to be completely self-serving, please check out Kenzi TV, especially for denim. He likely knows a lot more, or at least has a very informed knowledge base on Japanese denim. You have Ken Ijima, he has a base, but he's basically lifestyle, so it's a good channel for that. Going out in Japan, Ken. Bliss Foster. Bliss is an awesome channel for fashion in general, but he's also one of the few fashion content creators that understands how to be objective about fashion critique and covering it in a way where like say he covers Yohji, Rei, or Jun Takahashi, he actually considers that these individuals are Japanese, and there's a level of understanding that he has to be sensitive to because he's unfamiliar maybe with the culture in general. And of course, Ayo, the Fashion Archive. While not distinctly Japanese like the others on this list outside of Ken, Ayo knows fashion. He's a fan of Rei Kawakubo and Yohji Yamamoto, so that's an A in my book. He's also CSM, so you know it's real. And when he covers Japanese designers like Bliss, he's well-informed and thoughtful. I will say though that homie is probably the most down-to-earth fashion journalist on earth. Man just says things. There's like no sugarcoating. Anyway, that's the end. And if you got anything to add, shout out to all those guys. Their links to their channels are in the description of this, right? Shout out to those guys. Those guys are awesome. But if you got anything to add, or anybody who wants to learn more about Japanese fashion, maybe you got some insight that I did not mention there, you can put it in the comments. But most importantly, keep it locked right here for all of your info in international street fashion culture and business from Tokyo. It's your boy, and keep it casual. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And I will see you guys in a minute. I'm out. It's hot. It is hot in these streets, boy. I'm out.